So this is a bit of a grandiose title for a talk. Nobody can be an expert in this. Nobody can really know what's happening because it's new and it's changing unbelievably fast. But why not? I give it a go. Why do I dare give this a go? I've been building in mobile for 25 years and I've seen a lot of changes. I also had a job for a while where it was my job to predict the future. I spent a couple of years as an analyst for Slashdata, analysing developer tools, economy, and where developers were heading and what they were doing. So this is just having a bit of fun with that again. But also, I mean, this is just fascinating. It's been moving very fast. My day job these days, I am a principal engineer at Olio. We are a startup trying to save waste and the environment on hard mode. We organise volunteers to collect food from supermarkets that they're going to throw away and give it away to people and somehow make money doing that. It's not the easiest way to get to break even, and we are not there yet, 10 years in. I've been there for 3 and a bit. So this is what I'm planning to talk about. Here is my plan mode for my agent, because everything starts in plan mode for me now. And we talk about what's happened in the last 6 months, because we've had AI tools for a while, but they were kind of just interesting for most of that time. And then suddenly they got very interesting. How teams are actually working. I will talk about how our team works, but also about how teams are a little bit more, I believe the term in the Silicon Valley is red-pilled than us, are actually working, and why it's harder for mobile than it is for these people that are just churning out web apps. Any web app developers here today, by the way? Okay, cool. It's a proper mobile meetup. And where this stuff is going, where I think it's going in the near future. Further future, yes, is ridiculous. You'd have to be an idiot to try to predict that at this point, I think. So, the last 6 months, what changed since November 25? Why November? It's when some models launched. End of November, there were some models that were suddenly capable. They weren't glorified autocomplete. They weren't, yeah, I can generate you some boilerplate. They weren't just like, yes, excellent for your weekend project, which has 10 files and the whole thing fits in context. They were like, yeah, I've got a 1,000,000-line code base and it can go make changes that work. It can add new features for me. I'm not the only person that saw this. Does everybody know who Andrej Karpathy is? Waves and nods. He's the guy that coined the term vibe coding, which seems to be what he's most famous for now. But he was a founding engineer at OpenAI, and he did run Tesla's self-driving team for quite a long time. And he has just joined Anthropic to work on Claude. So he has some opinions in this area. He went from 80% manual and autocomplete to 80% basically agent-driven coding in a matter of weeks, just realizing, oh my goodness, this is doing a better job than me now. I might as well let it and just try and work out how to fix what it does wrong. Everyone know who DHH is? Nods. He was the creator of Ruby on Rails. I include him because he's very opinionated indeed, and I disagree with him on most things. But he also found that AI agents were like amazing, and he was enjoying building software more than ever before, and his team were very strongly encouraged to learn how to use these things to build things faster. And Linus, Mr. Linux, I include him because of 2 things. One, he is absolutely never going to just say, oh yeah, that's fine. Like, he's famous for throwing out the slightest error from people attempting to patch stuff in the Linux kernel, and ranting at people that did things that were bad. And he says basically the patch volume on the kernel is wild now. Now this is a 40 million line code base built in C, where people are doing crazy stuff like pointer arithmetic and actually managing memory manually. Don't think any of us do that anymore in mobile, but you know. If it can do that, it can probably add a screen to your app. I don't know. So what happened in a year? The capability of agents, as measured by pretty much any benchmark you would like to pick, went up 10 times for the same dollar amount. About 3 times was algorithmic improvements. About 2 times was hardware getting better and cheaper to run it on. And the rest is just price competition. Probably hear a bit more about that later, but there was some luxury pricing going on before, and it's mostly gone away. My next section, how do mobile teams work now? I'd say early adopter mobile teams aren't using AI like autocomplete anymore. I know certainly last year I was doing a lot of autocompleting. I really liked Windsurf's tab autocomplete. Like, it would automatically jump to the next thing I wanted to change and tell me what I wanted to change. It was quite good, but it was like a 10-20% speed up on my workflow. It wasn't world-changing, it was convenient. So to get a gauge of where everyone else is at that I'm talking to, how are you using AI to build your apps? Anyone hands for A? I am not. Ooh, 1. Is that because you build them all by hand or because you're not building apps?
First one.
All by hand, nice. I respect that actually, I like that. I craft it. Who is using the glorified autocomplete? As I'm slightly biasing that answer by calling it glorified, but anyone? No. An in-IDE agent? Most people, I think. And a terminal agent. Yeah, we've got a few fans of the terminal. I have enjoyed getting back into the terminal. I'm a bit old, so like it's kind of like return to the terminal for me. But here are 2 workflows that people who have like really jumped into AI go through. If you're using an agent full time, on the one side, we call this conservative. This is how my team works. We have the agent plan, we review the plans, but the agent writes the code generally. We review the code. Humans review the code. The agents also review the code. We do have a separate agent reviewing the code, but humans review the code. We make sure it passed the test. We make sure it adds suitable tests. It eventually gets merged. There's a lot of manual QA still in mobile. Don't know if anyone here is for full automation, but it seems to be almost impossible. It's like this dream that we will one day have automation tests to cover everything. We're not close. But yeah, humans are the source of truth. We use agents to multiply our impact. The agent's not the authority. If the agent says, I've got a really good idea for the architecture, we say, no, not today. There are a number of startups building like this. Where is the person in the loop? No, the person just says, here is what I want you to build. And it's got a whole load of rules telling it how that's supposed to look in terms of the quality process that follows. Another agent reviews it, another agent runs tests. They ship it. If it breaks something on so like Canary, so they'll do a deployment to a subset of users. If it looks like the metrics are going down, quickly patch it. It's all good. Works well on the web. Maybe not so good for now. But the bet they're making is that next year's model is going to be good enough to fix their tech debt. So they know they're accumulating tech debt. They know that by not reviewing it, there's going to be duplication in the code base. There's going to be different patterns. It's not going to be that consistent. It's not going to be that easy to maintain, but the models keep getting better, so, you know, we can fix it. Just an example of our conservative loop on a real branch. I love that Claude generated this, by the way. I don't, who writes their own slides anymore? Both Swift and Kotlin in the same thing. Why not? And it's not necessarily wrong. You might be working on both clients for the same feature. Could do. Don't know if I'd do it quite like that, but it gives you a diff to review, or you push your diff to GitHub and review it there if you like. Various versions of that flow. Using this kind of flow, this is what we've seen at Olio. You might say something like, how do you measure 2 times throughput per engineer? Like, surely metrics will be gamed. We're not using metrics. Our team halved in early December because we were running out of money. Nothing to do with AI, wasn't the AI layoffs. And we do more by quite some distance now than we did before we lost those people, having adopted Claude Code basically in our workflow since. While we're building things, partly this increased capability for the dev team comes along without an increased capability for our product managers to suddenly go, oh, I've got all these features ready for you. We can do things like work on our infrastructure. We've reduced our AWS costs by a lot, enough for another engineer that we wouldn't have had to lay off. But we also have all of our engineers working full stack now. So you don't get blocks like our backends are in Rails, our front end's React Native. Doesn't matter. Still, a backend PR will be reviewed by a backend developer. But we want to change an endpoint, obviously compatibly, add new fields or add a new one. That kind of thing is being done by our front-end engineers all the time. They don't get blocked because they're building a new screen and they need some new bit of data. Just ask Claude to do the right thing. We have our lowest API response times in company history because Claude's great at optimizing stuff. We have a massive reduction in Sentry errors across our stack, front end and back end, although actually they went up last week because I added some more. Not like bugs, like monitoring more of them. And it turns out there were things happening. We've done some really big refactors, stuff that was old and rather tech-dirty. We don't kind of put them off because we've got the time to let the agent go and do it. And it's really good at that stuff. Like, oh, I need to change this on 20 screens. Great. Strangely, they can be really lazy. I don't know if anyone's had this experience, but you'll have the agent say, wow, that's a lot of work. Like, we should defer this to later. And you're like, you can do that in 2 minutes. Like, just do it. We've built some more end-to-end test infrastructure. Don't know if anyone here runs loads of tests on devices or simulators and finds it incredibly slow. We have an Appium test suite. I got to use Claude to build a custom image on AWS that runs on a beast of a machine with 96 cores. It runs 14 parallel Android emulators and spreads the tests across those. Turns out a lot faster than running it on like browser stack or Lambda test as we used to in the past. Yeah, and our coverage is up. Virtually never see new PRs without tests because no one's to be too lazy to write tests when Claude can do it for them. However, it's not all like beautiful in the land of AI coding. We feel pain. Part I mentioned earlier, our PM wasn't really ready for suddenly us being able to deliver more stuff. And you can go find some PM skills online, and Claude knows how to ask all the right sort of PM-y questions and look at the business value, but it doesn't have any of the context or history that would be used to make those decisions, and it doesn't really have the judgment. Certainly our agents aren't doing user research for us. I'm sure somebody is building a platform somewhere where an agent asks users questions, but I don't really, like, are you going to get a summary of the call and just try and figure it out? I think that's still something that our UX designer and PM and increasingly engineers occasionally getting involved in those will keep doing. Design can be accelerated. Claude design is actually pretty good at mobile, which is a bit of a first, because I've tried a lot of the other design tools that are AI design tools, and they were horrible at making mobile screens. But yeah, UX Insight is lacking. So if you want another screen like a screen you've already got, great. If you want another screen that's significantly different, or you're trying to solve some new UX challenge, it's probably not going to come with the bestest options. You can ask it to like brainstorm and make lots, but it's not easy. So we still need our designer to do most of the designing. We do augment that, but it's tough. And system design trade-offs always need judgment. Like, Claude doesn't know why we were trying to save money on our infrastructure, or why we would go for an endpoint being far more likely to succeed or not, or whether we would want something lower priority or higher priority. And it can guess, but it doesn't generally have enough context to make those calls. And then our engineers that have been working with the system for years do. In the middle, it does a really good job. So actually writing the code, I don't think anyone on our team writes more than about 10% of their code anymore. Like, it's all reviewed, but not. So what we work on is seeing where it goes wrong and optimizing the process to do that. So we write new skills for Claude. We add hooks. Gil was talking about like the dangerous stuff. You go find, there's a really useful thing called a destructive command guard. And you can just add that as a hook. And every time it tries to make a command, this thing like checks the command and goes, whoa, no, hang on. I don't think you wanted to do that, and it blocks it. And that gets fed back. So that you can then allow more sort of auto mode type running, knowing that things that you really didn't want it to do will be caught, rather than, I just deleted that. Yeah. But then you get to the review stage and we're into more bottlenecks, because people now have to review all this stuff being generated by the agents. And, you know, did it build the right thing? Like, if my spec was off, even with plan mode, and I reviewed the plan, it could still go wrong. Did I break something else? This tends to be a feature of the tech debt in your code base. Like, if stuff is too coupled, it's easy for it to break something else. It will go looking for things. You can ask it to go looking for things that might also be affected. Sometimes it will get it wrong. Does it ship cleanly on every device? I mean, it can look at it on the simulator you've got running. You can mirror your real phone onto there. It looks nicely on my iPhone, and it can have a look at it running on my real phone. But other devices? I mean, this is a problem in mobile anyway, right? But Claude has no insight here. Our agents have no insight. And they are terribly clumsy and slow still when it comes to trying to test manually. Have a very nice MCP server called Mobile Next. It can automate simulators, it can automate real devices, can take screenshots, it can read the accessibility tree, but it misses buttons and tries again. And processing a screenshot is slow. And frankly, it could actually write you a new Appium test and run it faster than it could get through manual testing something that is just built. I think this will improve, but we're nowhere near there at the moment. And there are some fairly universal challenges at the scoping and review end for everybody that started building with agents, unless they have given up and just let the agents do it and ship it. But if you're still doing the review, there is a lot of knowledge out there about the web, which agents have sucked up by basically absorbing the entire web in their training data. They have not absorbed all the mobile apps in their training data. They know they exist, but they can't walk through them and actually figure out what they do and how they work. So there's not a lot of it kind of built into them knowing oh yeah, it should be like this. And a lot of their assumptions and first takes on things are not great. If you're building for more than one platform, you've got the classic, oh, I've got to build this for Android and iOS, and should it be the same on both? Now, we're quite lucky because a decision was made long ago that we would basically have something that looked the same on both platforms in React Native. But I know people building both and trying to be faithful to platform conventions on both, and that's not easy when you're trying to speed up with an agent. Which native API? I don't know how many people have been through this, but it's like, oh, there are like 3 frameworks to do this same thing. Which one should I use? Your agent will happily just pick one, usually without justification other than it was easier. Like, oh, this is in Swift. I won't use Common Crypto because it's an Objective-C framework. I'll just use that one. Never mind that if you go do the research, you find the old one is like 10 times faster at the specific thing that you wanted to calculate. And on the review end, yeah, I mentioned like it can take screenshots. It can look at the accessibility tree. Neither of those is anything like the DOM. The DOM is the full truth of what's displayed. The accessibility tree is missing all kinds of things. And actually, the more accessible you make your app, usually the worse the accessibility tree gets, because you start like having elements like be summarized. And then the sub-elements disappear from the accessibility tree because they no longer need to be accessibility elements. Yeah, real device UI tests. They've always been flaky, they're still flaky. It doesn't make for quick cycles. We have got some skills we've built to help us debug those flaky tests and make them less flaky, but it's not ideal. And yeah, this whole issue with like shipping packaged software to app stores, you can't just be like, yeah, we'll ship a canary to a few users. I mean, you can ship stuff behind a feature flag, but you can't really just get a patch out really quickly if something doesn't work or broke. Where it's going. Speed along. There are a number of things, a lot of people shouting loudly and saying things like, there's going to be a big rug pull and all the prices are going to go up massively, and we'll have all been trapped into relying on these agents, and then you won't be able to afford to use them anymore. And certainly you can see that in things like GitHub Copilot's switch to usage-based pricing. And if you were using that, then suddenly your manager's probably like, what the heck is going on here? You're burning hundreds of dollars. I think the thing to know there is that they are paying the token prices, probably discounted, volume discounted, but still, they are paying the model providers. They don't have their own model, and they haven't got much choice. They were burning cash, giving away other people's tokens. Has anybody not heard of the Pareto frontier? Yeah, so this is like a curve of model capability versus price at the best for that price. Surprisingly, that's nearly all Google models on there. This was January 26. To avoid controversy, this is measured by LLM Arena Elo score. Elo score is something that comes from chess, and it basically, like real humans, evaluate the output of 2 models doing the task, and the one that wins more increases in Elo. Thousands of people do it, and this is how they evaluate them. Claude and ChatGPT, like 5.2, 1 or 2 there, were around here at the time. There's not much in it. This one is a bit of a mystery. I don't know about Llama, because that's an 8 billion model, so it should cost more to run than the other ones. But Claude found pricing online from 26. It was really cheap. I don't know. However, now, today, we can see at the cheap end, we are much further up. And the open source model for like DeepSeek v4 Flash is actually really, really capable. Yeah, it's put quite a lot of pricing pressure at the top end, which makes it very unlikely that they can suddenly ramp up the prices into the stratosphere, because People will switch if the difference is big enough. Here we have our top-of-the-line paid-for models. Actually, this is kind of surpassed now, thanks to Google I/O. Here's some open source ones from China. This one's kind of nearly open source. DeepSeek, they release the weights eventually. Yeah, there's put in on purpose. Here's Opus 4.6, which is not really a very old model, right? And across a wide range of benchmarks, these open source models are now better than that. So yes, they've released a better one, and yes, they've got that mythos thing that they're hiding in their back pockets they won't let us have because it's too big and expensive and might destroy the world with cyber security issues. But they were a good 6 months behind in open source, and now it's probably more like 2. Again, massive pricing pressure downwards, plenty of opportunity for basically people to move if we can't keep using what we want to use. And the other thing that's pushing pricing down is a big move to custom silicon. So Google has been doing this for a long time. AWS has been doing it for a little while, and Microsoft just got into the game, but they started well. It's kind of unfair because these dates are sort of based on announcements when they shared details of their hardware. So it makes AWS look behind, but that's because until things go GA, they don't usually actually share many details. So maybe you could push their dates back up a bit and they'd look a bit better. There is actually a Trainium 4 that's coming out like just after that one. But most of what you're running now is running on NVIDIA GPUs. And those are really expensive, like really expensive. And in fact, Anthropic just did another deal, done 2 in a row, with SpaceX to use Elon's data centers because no one wants to use his models. And that's still all running on GPUs. But the big cloud providers have all built custom silicon that runs it much cheaper. And I don't know about you, but we don't pay anything like this low for any tokens. Like 0.1012, so like 1 cent for 1 million tokens is not what you see when you're buying the big models. Now, some of these figures are probably a bit unfair because that's almost certainly based on them running what they're running. The majority of their inference is on like flash models, so it's not the top end models. But even so, it's like an order of magnitude below what you're paying. So the compute costs are not what is driving things. And here is my last big question. Will we eventually get to running our AI locally on devices, either on our laptops or actually on the phones to build stuff? And this is very much questions. Like, does it make sense for apps to ship their own models? Some, but not many, because who wants to download like a 2 gig model with every app that they download? Also, beyond the app size, like, are you going to run it as an agent in the background where the phone keeps waking up and heating your pocket while it does a bit of thinking? Doesn't seem very likely. That's probably going to stay in the cloud. But I'm sure there are apps that will do it, and I'm sure there are small model cases for specific tasks that will increasingly ship, like that ML hardware on the devices will get used more and more. And with that, we have to get used to the idea of like components in our software stack that don't produce deterministic output, which is a fun thing to try and build around. We've been doing quite a lot of it in the cloud. We have a number of features like that in our own stack now. Some of the errors are fun. My colleague fixed one the other day where the LLM suddenly decided to return the JSON as Markdown. So it was like, it is JSON, and it says it's JSON, but it's got little 3 ticks before and after it and says JSON. These things can be fixed, and you can make the model behave, beat the models into submission, but it's an interesting world to work in. Will those built-in models get good? I don't think anybody thinks they're good. Does anybody think the built-in models are good now, like the ones on the devices? No, good. So will they get good? Yes. Like the trends in terms of like what's good at smaller sizes are going in the right direction and the hardware's going the other direction. The two will meet in the middle. Yeah. But will they work well enough for your use case? Like, they're not going to be the general models that we have now. They can do some of that, but they won't have the same context, because who's going to put that much RAM on a phone? It will make the phone too expensive. And yes, will we need more RAM than we have today? Probably likely if we want to get anything close to where we are now. But what does that mean for the long tail of low-end devices? Like, okay, Apple's fine. Like, they'll ship new devices with more RAM when the penny pinching and the current RAM shortage is probably ended. It'd be fun to take bets on whether they up the RAM on the top-end iPhones this year, because RAM prices are through the roof, and will cost consciousness win out over future-proofing for AI features? I don't know. But like cheap Chinese Android, I mean, we struggle daily with some of those devices that they're still releasing, and Motorola's that can barely run our app because they've just got such weak processors and low RAM. Do those people just not get on device AI? Do they have to pay for it in the cloud? Do you just not support them if you have AI features? So there's an interesting kind of like, who are we building for? Yeah, like, does it get more expensive for people that can't afford good hardware because they have to pay for a service? I don't know. And my ending, I'm going even further back than Isaac Asimov there, Winston Churchill. So is it the end of mobile software developers? No, absolutely not. It's not even the beginning of the end. But it might be the end of the beginning. Like, will there be many people, like our esteemed colleague here, writing everything by hand 5 years from now? I doubt it. Are more and more people going to end up working the way that my team does at the moment, where agents write nearly everything? Yes, I think they will. Not every company is going to open up to that so quickly. I mean, we're in a very small startup and they're very cost constrained, and it's like, well, we've just lost half our team and we still need to ship loads of stuff. And oh, now suddenly some customers have turned up and they want things. So we're willing to take more risks. And so far it's working, but I still think the evidence will build up and more people will do it. Questions?
So thanks for that, it was really interesting. In terms of the human in the loop, that's not necessarily, in my mind, a sustainable model, because it requires, obviously, probably more senior engineers to be able to spot what's wrong with code issues and all that. So how do you approach bringing new life into the organisation, training the juniors? Do you still train them on, do you still upskill them in software development and the language skills, or are you stepping away from that? Do you not allow them to use the AI tools until they're at a certain level? Or do you know what I mean? And that's the kind of I'm wondering if you've got any thoughts on.
I do. It's not one I have to worry about, because we're not hiring anybody. We just got rid of a load of people. And it's also not a problem for us because all of our engineers are senior or above since we last lost anybody. So that's kind of, that works for us as a workflow. I do think it is a problem. I'm also far less pessimistic than I think a lot of commentators are, like in the media, because I think that if you do commit to bringing on new engineers, it's actually cheaper to train them than it's ever been, because the AI can explain a hell of a lot to them. So it's more about them learning to use the tools as a learning aid, and then having a mentor to help with the gaps. But if they don't understand a bit of the code base, actually, like the agent is actually really good at explaining what a piece of code does. I think we're in an intermediate stage now where nobody really wants those junior engineers because they don't even really know what they need to train them to be able to do. It's like, well, we're training at a moving target. But I do think that the core understanding of computer science and basically at least knowing one language so that you can translate across really well is going to be needed. Like, we're not just going to get into a world of like, oh, just learn how to specify your intent clearly. Everybody that comes to the keyboard to prompt brings a whole load of knowledge with them, and that influences how well they can define what they want, both in terms of what the output is supposed to be, which like our product manager could prompt Claude for what they want the output to be, but also how it should work, and what trade-offs they want made, that kind of thing. And that makes a big difference. So we still need to train people to think like that. Yeah, I don't know what the in-between phase looks like. And I think that there are companies out there investing heavily in juniors as long as they're interested in building with AI and want to learn from it. And they have, they're big computer science graduates or they've come through some similar course. And I do think you do still have to learn to do it manually. Like with all kinds of things that you learn, that you then learn shortcuts, you still need to learn like how it works underneath first. And I actually think there's benefit to you in knowing how everything works underneath. Like even if you're an expert today in Swift, it's good to know what the underlying runtime's doing. It's good to know how an ARM processor works. Like you don't need to know those things because you can work without it, but it still benefits your ability to do your job. That makes sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else?
How do you ensure that
It's all right, I can hear.
you are enabling the secure coding practices, and how are you validating them?
So, I mean, mostly that's through review. We do have tools that are checking that stuff, like static analysis type tools. We do have tools that are making sure that we're keeping things patched. But actually, like on the mobile client side, I don't think we've built anything that's touched anything security sensitive with AI, and it's not likely to change. Like that foundation's in place. Probably we wouldn't have had an agent just completely build that for us if we wanted to. That's an interesting point. But also we're not in a high security environment. So like we've got a marketplace where people give stuff away for free, and then don't use like full names or anything on the app. So it's not like there's loads of data that someone might steal, or that someone might hack it and break it. We have ongoing issues with scammers, but that's not really a security issue as much as it is like a moderation issue. So for us, it's not like a top concern. And on the back end, I would say we've got what we need in place already. Yeah, I'd be interested in thinking about that. It's not something I've had to think about if I was starting something fresh. But I think ultimately it requires the fact that you would know with your sort of senior plus judgment on building these things in the past, what you need to do, and to express that clearly to an agent to build it. I certainly have done that with side projects. I've got stuff on Cloudflare that if I didn't do that, someone could run me up a big bill, because it's all like pay as you go. So, yeah.
Sorry, I was not talking about surfaces opening up because the AI is generated code is not completely integrated and not using. The reason I say that is, for example, in the past, in the mobile world, you used to have a single place of contact to fetch data from the server,
Yeah.
and everything users to go through that. Now, the AI generated code which I have seen is duplication of code, and the attack surfaces are improving, are increased. So how are you mitigating that kind of areas?
I mean, I think that's more like vibe coded code. So like that would not get through review for us.
No, I was not referring to vibe coding, but anyway.
Well, but I mean, if you allow that to come in through your review process, like, oh yeah, you just invented a new API endpoint that's a duplicate of that one over there, then is it any different than vibe coding it? Like it's just like waving it through. We are, our principle within our team is that you own the code in the PR that you submit, right? So if you're not happy that what the AI has done on your behalf is good enough, then you need to go back and rework it. And someone reviewing it doesn't just be like, oh, it's fine, Claude did it, or oh, it's fine because Mark worked on that, so it must be okay. They're still reviewing it like, can I find something that should be better in this PR? What has been missed? What else could you do?
That was really interesting. One question, well, I had a couple questions. One of the things you made, one of the points you made is that people are working across the stack. So you've got your React Native devs who are now working on some of that server-side code. How do you ensure that they've got the expertise to be able to write that code or to at least review it?
The short answer is that the front-end devs do not review the server-side code. The back-end devs review the server-side code. And in terms of expertise, it's very much a case of like working on things that are within the scope of what you understand. So, we don't go and work on like major chunks of the back-end logic, but if I need to add some new properties in a serializer from something, like, yeah, I absolutely understand what that code is doing. And if I didn't, Claude would do a good job of telling me exactly what it was doing and why this was a good way of doing it, not that way. But yeah, I mean, we rely on the review process for that, and we rely on people taking on sensible sized chunks of work.
Yeah, that makes sense. The other quick question I had was, like, you said that you've got half the team now, but the throughput has gone up to effectively like double what you think developers are. Have you seen any signs or had any concerns that developers feel that they now have to produce more and push that throughput up because they now have a tool that can do a lot more for them?
Yeah, we work quite hard. Like our engineering manager particularly is concerned about burnout. So we actually have human intelligence time on Tuesday afternoons where people are not supposed to use the AI. I think people still do. But to do other stuff, even if it's not like building things. And we have also kind of actively discouraged people from multi-threading too much. I certainly find that if I work on like 3 things at once, by the end of the day, I am really burnt. I can feel the fatigue of having had like 3 different threads of tasks going on at the same time.
So when you say like 3 different threads of tasks, do you mean as if like 3 different tickets or branches or
Yeah.
something like that? Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Like 2 at once is fine, 3 starts to get hard. I don't know, there are people in Silicon Valley like orchestrating 10 to 20 in a day at one time, and maybe they're young, I don't know.
And I'm guessing that like the rationale is like you're sat there waiting for the AI to finish, so you might as well start another task.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a really well-defined plan, it can take tens of minutes to do it, so you can just go spin up something else.
Thank you.
We're going to have to leave it there for questions, but thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.